barn some 200 years previously. There had been a very hasty conversion undergone over the winter months, creating an upper story, staircase, and fully fitted kitchen and bathroom. Other rooms were still a work in progress, with walls unplastered and floors uncovered. Robin the elder, friend of Christopher, had valiantly handled the sale of Simmy's Troutbeck cottage, selling it for more than the original asking price, 2 weeks before Christmas. It had been on the market a mere 10 days. "Of course, he'll get a good share of the commission," Simmy reminded Christopher when he showed signs of going overboard with his gratitude. Try as she might, she wasn't entirely able to like the man. Giving her baby his name had been an accident on that first day. She'd been thinking almost entirely about cheerful little birds, and Robin Sterling had not after all found them a place to live. The barn had been, incredibly, just given to them by a woman in a rush to escape the area, and all it meant to her. As a result, they had more money than Simmy had ever thought possible, just sitting in a pathetically low-interest bank account. Dawn was breaking. Pink-tinged clouds racing across the fells, driven by the wind. Outside was the tiny settlement of Hartsop, a few miles south of Patterdale, itself another short distance from Ullswater and Glenridding. Simmy had never before seen it in spring, and the experience was intoxicating. She was working up a routine of bundling the baby into a sling and walking a mile or two along a rough track that ran alongside the beck to the southern tip of the lake. The first such walk had been on Robin's 8th day, and Simmy had managed almost a mile, feeling light-headed with responsibility for the little life tied on her front, as well as exhilaration at this new phase of her life. She'd repeated the walk 3 more times since then. Christopher worried that she'd slip and fall, with Robin altering her centre of gravity. Before they'd moved here, he had repeatedly insisted they get a dog. Now, with all this walking, it made even more sense. "A golden retriever," he begged, "or an Irish setter." "I can't cope with a dog just yet," she always prevaricated. "Maybe in the summer." The walking was growing more important to her with every passing week. Once she'd got as far as the pub in Patterdale, taking almost an hour to gather her strength for the return walk and feeding the baby quietly in a corner. She couldn't see how a dog would enhance this experience. An Irish setter would run across the road and get killed. A retriever would want her to throw sticks for it. A terrier would chase sheep, and a spaniel would get under her feet. It was a precious interlude, which she knew couldn't last. Her flower shop down in Windermere was still functioning, with young Bonnie Lawson stepping up magnificently, and a temporary woman brought in to help. That had been quite a moment when Verity Chambers had come into their lives. In her 50s, with a broad Cumbrian accent, she was reassuringly compliant and cooperative. She let a girl less than half her age order her about with apparent contentment, never arguing or complaining. "It's a miracle," Bonnie insisted. "I can't get used to it at all. Ben says it's all an act, and she's just biding her time before she takes over the whole business." "Nonsense," said Simmy. "She's just happy to let somebody else carry all the responsibility." "But she does talk far too much. Most of it total nonsense," Bonnie added. Verity knew more than enough about flowers to be an asset in the shop, but when it came to taking orders, with the timing often quite crucial, she was useless. Bonnie forbade her from answering the phone under any circumstances or from going anywhere near the computer. But she could drive and knew her way around the region, so she could be sent out with deliveries. Bonnie still showed no sign of learning to drive. Christopher woke shortly before 7 to find Simmy and his son dozing together in the chair on the other side of the very large bedroom. Simmy had insisted on sitting by the big new window when she fed the baby, because it looked out on a most spectacular view. "Hey, you two, come back to bed," he called. "Not worth it now," she said. "Young sir is dead to the world. I'll go and do us some eggs. My mother's coming later on when she's finished the breakfast."